morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Wim, and I want to start by telling a little story that captures a bit of the essence of the point I'm trying to make today. And it's about the early 1900s. There were two shoe salesmen in Brussels, and they were asked to go to Africa to see if there was a market for shoes. And they both went there, and one of them wrote back a telegram to Brussels saying, "Situation hopeless, stop, they don't wear shoes." And the other one writes back and he says, "Glorious opportunity, they don't wear any shoes yet." And I think it's the mindset of that second shoe salesman that captured my attention. He doesn't see barriers, he sees an opportunity. And I think that's where a real transformation or change happens. And I think that resembles well what we are trying to do at Horst, the festival, where we try and look at these old buildings, forgotten places, look at them and see opportunity. We can really add something as a festival and maybe change it into, for example, a new part of the city. And so from the start, Horst had the idea, how can we reimagine a festival so it becomes a meaningful catalyst for societal change? And how can we do that? It's not just by throwing a big party and building big stages, but by asking artists, entrepreneurs, architects to think about solutions with us. How do we look at spaces? How can we change spaces and not only build beautiful stages or get great bars, but how can we have a lasting impact through design? And we are doing that now at this old military base in Vilvoorde, an old industrial town where people fled, not much going on there. But the city bought this old military base that was empty for over 10 years. And we actually arrived there to do the festival and also do the management of the whole site. But to take you back, Horst lends his name from an old moated castle where we started our festival more than 10 years ago. It was a beautiful castle near Leuven, somewhere in the fields. And the festival grew and grew there. We also asked a lot of artists and architects to build stages with us. There was also an expo that lasted after the festival was over. So that attracted a lot of tourists, etc., etc. And one of the stages I wanted to show you here is the last one we did at the castle. It was by Atelier Bauau. For us at that point, a very renowned architecture practice from Japan. And they built this beautiful ship, so to speak, that was at that time considered our main stage. We only did about 6,000 people or so that wasn't very big. But even for us, that type of structure was something of a hurdle because of the fact that we didn't have the means or the people to build this thing. And we did an open call, as they usually do in architecture as well, to do summer camps. And over the summer, we invited a mix of architects, builders, etc., to help us build this stage together with, in their eyes, their idols, Atelier Bauau. And so the people you see here in this picture are part of the atelier, we call it, that answered the open call, worked with us during a few weeks building the stage. The stage was then built and they could party on it during the festival. And afterwards, what they said to us was, this was a life-changing experience for us. We basically have a bit of an experience gap. When we go to school, we only work in theory. When we come here, we participate in building this stage, think with our mentors, create the stage, and then even be able to party on it. That's something we never would have achieved by being in school. And so that also gave us the idea that not only to shape places with architects and artists, but also with young people, because those will be the people that can also inspire us and that we can give them experiences that they would never have if they would just go to school or do a little shift on a festival. But then the festival became a bit too big for the historical grounds we were on, because our idea was always to add something to the site we were present. And because of the fact that the festival grew in scale, we had the pressure became a bit too hard. It was an old historical site, but also a protected natural site, and so we had to go look for something new. And after a few months, we stumbled upon this crazy old military base in Vilvoorde that the city had bought a few years earlier, but didn't have the capacity or the means to really develop the place. And here you see a top-down picture, and it's the number one on that picture that represents the military base. It's about 7 hectares with more than 20 buildings on it. But that was really Chernobyl, so to speak. There was not much happening. And so we took on that site as our first festival ground, so to speak. First time we arrived in Vilvoorde. And so by looking at the space, looking at what was possible there, we started designing the festival around that, creating stages that could last after the festival and could be used as maybe a campground for the local youth, or maybe a space where people can cook together, etc., etc. And so the festival really became this hotbed for innovation on this site. And next to that, what was really interesting, every festival or every big event or space needs an identity. And what was interesting is that the old military base was basically next to 2 big cooling towers. You can see them when you're on the ring of Brussels and you drive over the big bridge. You see 2 cooling towers. And so for us, of course, that was the landmark we needed that could be part of the identity of the festival. And so the first year that we did the festival there, we had the opportunity of even doing artworks inside of one of those cooling towers that also gave people an amazing experience. And so that really gave us the feeling that we finally arrived at the right destination. We used to be at these old historical sites where we put too much pressure, too much nuance, too much nuisance on the site, where here, this old industrial place in a city that had economic problems, we were on the right location. We were actually adding stuff. And so year after year, we grew. And also the newspapers started following us, and they started calling us the Tomorrowland without the stars or the hype, but with a focus on very important pillars like art, like music, and like architecture. And it's these 3 pillars that we always take deep into our DNA. Bringing all these types of artists together to create new places. Because that's one thing, because I've been working in music my whole life, but one of my partners in Horst is an architect, and he actually showed us that the space, the public space we live in, is one of the most precious, valuable things we have as a festival. And not only look at the entertainment part of it, how can we fit as many people inside, how much fireworks should we use? No, how do I feel when I enter a space? What do I want to do when I enter that space? And he actually shifted our thinking from just having an entertainment value or something that looks good to an effective feeling of who am I when I enter this place, and that outlasts the momentum of the event. And so I think that's one of the key components that made Horst into what it is today. And so what we have today is not only the festival, Horst, but also Aziat. That's the old military base that we are now actually having also in our management. We are not only a festival organizer, we are actually just a site manager now that has to deal with cities, authorities, etc. And we are fueling the whole Aziat project with Horst as the momentum maker. And to maybe show you real quick how our year looks like, we always have the festival in May. And above that you see a little block that says Atelier. That's always a period where we invite young people to build with us. So building stages, bars, but also helping to build the expo, helping with communication, etc. So that becomes a real tight-knit group of people that come back every year, add know-how to our company, and also sometimes come and work for us later on. After the festival, we have the expo that runs during whole summer. That also is an attraction point for Aziat. The place we are managing right now, we are transforming that into a park, so people are welcomed on site during summer, where there's not much to do in Vilvoorde, to come and have a visit. And then during the year, as we are now managing this whole year round, we also do club nights. the stages we built for the festival, one of those stays, and we do club nights regularly to also energize the public space there and to show other organizers to actually also do their events there. And so I think that the main takeout here is that momentum events can really create a buzz and interest for places that otherwise would be overlooked. And maybe one example of how we try to achieve these goals. We don't have the big budgets yet. The festival is about 40 to 50,000 people a year, so that does not mean we are loaded with cash. But what we try to do is we actually have 3 companies, 2 commercial ones, one that does the festival, that's just selling tickets and beer, so to speak, one that does the management of the site, and then we have a non-profit organization who runs the exhibitions, who runs the volunteering, etc. And that's the way also we see that as a triangle that is important for our general business model. Here you see a stage of the festival, but it's actually located in a corner of the festival ground or at the Aziad grounds, where it used to be a really dark corner. It was a shady spot with a shed where like youngsters used to hang out at night. They were up to no good. Police had to intervene a lot there. But we had a lot of sport facilities in the neighborhood already up and running, and they were complaining, we have a problem there at night, people feel unsafe, etc. Then obviously the festival was growing and we also needed a new stage. And then the non-profit organization was talking to a lot of interesting architects that were willing to take on, in the light of the exhibition, a new stage design. And so we actually put all these 3 needs together. We built together with these architects a new stage design. The site took down the old sheds, gave them as base materials to create this new stage. So all of the things you see there, the yellow bars, they were actually holding the roof together. We broke those down and created this new circular stage, so to speak. And then afterwards, we actually asked the city and also some partners, maybe we can create a sort of a hype court that becomes a sporting ground where people can play basketball, football, etc. And now we transformed basically that space, that place, into a vibrant sporting area that is now frequented by youngsters every day. And so I think that really shows you what the model is capable of. This is a beginning, a start, but I think for us, proof of the pudding, so to speak, that we can actually achieve greater stuff by putting all of these different agendas together. I see my time is already up, so I'm gonna skip through a few slides. Maybe one thing to finish with to show our practice is how do we build these stages? And we always do that together with artists, together with architects to energize new spaces. And this is one of the stages we built this year. I just wanna show you a quick video and that will be the end of my talk.
I think that's kind of the goal here, is how can we get everyone inside of the experience instead of just watching the experience from the edges?
My name is Leopold Blanchini. I'm an architect.
My name is Zach Kudoretsky. I'm better known as DVS1. So I think when they approached me and they said, what can you do that we haven't seen before? And I said, okay, well, how crazy do you want to get? And they said, go as crazy as you want. I think that approach opened the doors for us to try something really, really different.
I think it's quite unique that the festival is ready to challenge preconceived ideas that we have about what is the relation between the audience, the performer, and the sound.
So, most times sound is always an afterthought, I think, in a lot of especially bigger productions. Here we started the opposite. We decided to start with what would be a new and maybe never done before vision of a sound system, and then build the stage, the architecture, the lighting after that.
So I think first of all, the idea of having a spatial sound system removes some of the attention towards the performer.
Taking away the superstardom of the DJ, of the artist being center stage, and bring it back to a more community-focused approach.
By having an evenly distributed sound system over 900 square meters, we are creating a very democratic sound space because everyone in the audience will have a similar feeling and relation with the sound.
going to be like a social experiment, and it's actually going to be really interesting to see how every design concept interacts with each other. The people, the structure, the sound.
We are testing, we are challenging usual spaces, we are innovating, and in that sense, it's hard to know what's going to be the feeling, but what I can tell is it's going to be unexpected, and it's going to be extremely strong as a sensorial experience to be within this space.
It's all these elements that go into the ideas beforehand that create that final magic.
Thank you very much.